Hi guys, Mel the Terrain Tutor here again with another Back to Basics video, and in this Back to Basics video what we're going to be looking at is foliage. And by foliage what I mean is your phlox, your static grasses, your clump materials, your lichen and all the stuff that makes our terrain so green and beautiful. Now before I go into it, let's talk a little bit about the history. Now when I first got into wargaming, okay, you didn't have these materials, and basically what you did is you put gravel on your base and you painted it green, and if you were really good you dry brushed it. I mean, if you could dry brush, you were the man. And then along came this flock, dyed sawdust, and we sprinkled it on our bases and all was good, all was brilliant. And then came the next revolution, which was static grass, okay, and that was even better because we could have clumps of grasses on our bases. And then finally we had clump material, okay, and we could have little bushes, and these were really artistic. And the thing is, we thought, we're the best. Look at these bases, amazing. Now the fact of the matter is, yeah, we are well behind the game, okay. And what I mean by that is that the railway people, the guys who are making the train setups, yeah, were using this sort of stuff long before us. And because of that, they've got a far wider range. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go quick cameras down. So here we have them, the flock, the scatter, the static grass, the clump material, the bushes, so to speak, the sponge foam. If you're going to be making Wargames terrain, now this stuff is the right stuff, but how expensive it is, it's just not economical for making terrain. I'll say it again, and I've said it before, if you're making the odd piece or you're doing stuff with your army, this stuff is what you want to go for, okay? But if you're making if you're making Wargames terrain, then you really need to buy in bulk, and at this point, this is where we go over to the terrain guys. So, straight off the bat, yeah, you can get a tub of flock for £4, okay? Or you can go to one of the terrain guys and get exactly the same amount for £1. Or roughly about £1.40 actually. But the fact of the matter is the terrain guys have been doing this a lot longer, so they have loads of shades of this stuff you can use. I mean, literally, you've got a summer mix, you've got the standard mix, you've got an autumn mix, a winter mix, and there's literally all sorts you can do this. When you look at it and you look at the manufacturers, and quickly about the manufacturers, in the UK you've got Jarvis Scenics, and these are from Jarvis Scenics. In the US, you've got a company called Notch, and you've got Woodland Scenics, and they all produce great quality products. Yeah, but like I say, if you're going to make terrain, you really need to move away from this and move towards this. And the same applies to static grass. Now this is about £4 or £5 a tub, I think. Yeah, but I can buy that for £8. £4, £8, and it's static grass. Okay, it's exactly the same, and the manufacturers do all sorts of different shades of static grass. You know, I'm sorry they're in the packets and you can't see them clearly, but there's all sorts of mixes that you can get, and it really helps bring your terrain alive if you can go away from the sort of default colours. Yeah, on top of that, you've got this clump material. Now, this little tub from Gale Force 9 is £3.50. I paid £6 for this bag. Okay, now this bag is all one colour, yeah, because the terrain guys then tend to buy it in bulk, yeah, and you can get mixed bags. Like I say, little jobs, this stuff is great, yeah, but if you're making terrain, you really need to be looking at this sort of stuff, and there's plenty of it about. There's plenty of clump material. Various companies do it. Jarvis does it. It does it in different grades. Yeah, what do you call it? Woodland Scenic does it in different grades, and there's plenty of it about. Yeah, so like I say, if you're going to make terrain, move away from this sort of stuff, okay, and get into the actual terrain people's terrain coverings. Oh God, that sounds like a tongue twister. Right, now on top of those, you've seen all those, there's other stuff. Lichen, however you say it, okay, and this is basically a plant that's dyed. Okay, and it's to stimulate real bushes, and you can get it in all sorts of different colours. You can get autumn mixes, you can get winter mixes, you can get dyed stuff. Okay, I mean there's plenty of colours to work with, and these are all available and they're dirt cheap. Yeah, all you do is just do a search for Jarvis Scenics or Woodlands or Lot or Notch. Okay, now on top of that we've got these. Okay, and these are clumps of grass that make up standing grass. Okay, and these are from Woodlands, and I've got 3 different shades that I picked up, and I'll show you how to use these as well. Okay, so as you can see, moving away from the game suppliers and into sort of like the more formal trained people, you get a lot more for your money, and there's a lot wider variety. Now it's important to point out, much like there's the main manufacturers in the Wargames community, there's the main manufacturers in the trained community. On top of that, yeah, you've got lots of little niche companies that are making their own mixes and their own products. So with a bit of digging, you can find some really good stuff and really unique stuff. Okay. Now, the reason why I've sort of taken you through all this and showing you what there is, yeah, is because I've got a project in mind. Rather than showing you little bits, I want to do a finished piece. So if I just push all this over to there, okay, I'll pull out this. Now this is right. I bought this building, this church, okay, and I bought it about 23 years ago, and it came pre-painted, okay, and I did a really hash job of sort of covering the back of it, which had a resin dip in it, you know, where it was only molded on one side with, I think it was air drying clay, and I sculpted some windows into it, etc. And my first bit of terrain. Now, for the past 20 years, I've been meaning to base this, and it seems no better time than this video. I did think about repainting this, but I thought, no, it's done me for 20 years, so I'm sticking with it. So if you look at it, what we've basically got is we've got the piece, yeah, which is glued down. It's got gravel in the middle and a gravel path. Okay, now normally I would texture all of this, but I just want to show you how well this sort of stuff works for covering. Okay, and what we've basically got is we've got painted over cake base, okay, with a layer of expanded polystyrene put on it, and then PVA glue smoothed round. So we've actually got 3 gradients. We've got cake base, smooth PVA, and expanded polystyrene, and I just want to show you how all this goes down. So what we're going to do in the video is we're going to go through each of the products, what they are, how to apply them, any tips, etc., and then we're actually going to apply them to this. And the idea is at the end I should have a wonderful piece of scenery. Okay, now normally I wouldn't base this on something this large, but it works well for this tutorial. So guys, the next thing we're going to look at is scatter, is flock. So we'll move on to that in just a moment. See you in a sec. So the first stage with basing any piece of terrain and covering any piece of terrain with foliage is flock. Now, as I said before, you can get this from numerous number of manufacturers. I'm just going to use the default stuff, the standard green, the Wargames green, so to speak. Okay, and that's because I just want to keep this project simple and show you how to apply this stuff, and then we can build up all the wonderful things you can do from that in future videos. Now, when it comes to applying this stuff, and all this stuff is dyed sawdust, as I understand it. Okay, there's a couple of techniques. Now, depending on how thick you want the flock, yeah, you have to put the PVA on thin. And what I mean by that is, if I was to get, say, neat PVA and apply it with a wet brush, okay, and spread it round, then what would happen is when I sprinkle this flock on, yeah, what will happen is it will stick to the top of the PVA, and because the PVA glue's thick, it won't sort of go any further. It will just stick the top layer down, and that will result in a thin layer of flock on your model. Okay, but if I apply watered down PVA, a 50-50 mix, what will happen is when I pour this on, the bottom layer will soak through, and it will continue to soak upwards as this sort of sucks in the moisture. And what that means is you end up with a thicker layer of flock, a far more realistic one, because the glue travels up and binds more of the actual flock than if you were just pouring it on top of a layer of glue. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I'm going to show you, because I like that effect. Which one you use is down to you, to be perfectly honest. Now, all it is a matter of getting your 50-50 mix. Yeah, a little bit of flow aid in there, a bit of fairy liquid. Okay, and all you're going to do is, oh, this brush is solid. That's better. You can tell it's a PVA brush. Yeah, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to literally apply it like this. Now you'll notice I've got my project on a stand. Yeah, and all that is a couple of bases lifted up onto some cardboard, and because we're using watered down PVA, I'm expecting drips off the edge here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly give this a coat, and I'm going to use that same technique that we used with the gravel, where we soak an area and then we come back in, we pour the grit, the flock down, and then we carry on soaking another area and moving on, because I can't do all of this and then flock it in one go, to be perfectly honest. Now remember, when you're flocking, you tend to pour more out of the actual tub that you need. Okay, and that's because it piles up on the base. And so with that in mind, okay, you need a reasonable amount to start off with, and it's another reason why I recommend going to the train people, the hobby shops for the people who make model railways. I might call it railways from now on, it's a lot easier than saying train, because I keep saying terrain. So there we are, I've covered this roughly half the way around, and it's all nice and wet and running off the edges, as you can see. Okay, and then what I'm going to do very quickly is I'll get my tub of flock, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over quite liberally, because I want a reasonably thick coating. You might have to throw it at the edges on this, because you know what this is like. Trying to get it on the edges, the very, very edges, can be challenging at times. So all I'm doing is I'm literally just going round and I'm just applying a coating. And I'm going this far because what I want to do is make sure that I've still got this wet bit here, so I can spin it round. That's actually covered the ends quite well. I'll just throw some in. And what I'm doing here is just throwing a bit up to the edges to sort of catch it and blend it in. Now the downside of this is obviously it's messy. Obviously, you know, you can see it dripping off. You will get some wastage. It's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to do the same here. Then I'll start on this side now. As you can see, I'm really throwing it on and getting it on because I want to get this done. That's like, see that groove there? That's where I messed up doing the actual base, and I'm going to cover that over so you can't even see it because I'm that good. Nothing like a bit of pride in yourself, is there, guys? Yeah, so quickly we run around here. I don't want this to go on too long for obvious reasons, because you haven't come here to watch me glue, but I'll do this bit quickly. Now when it comes to flocking, drying time is really important, guys. It really is. Okay, so what I highly recommend is, this is not a quick project. You've got to leave these to dry. You can accelerate the drying with hair dryers, etc., but the one problem is you risk blowing a lot of the flock away. So if you want to dry it with a hair dryer, that's fine, but what I suggest you do is wait until it sets to a certain amount, then finish off drying with a hair dryer. Don't start off straight away, or you'll just blow the flock everywhere. Yeah, so that's all nice and covered, and then what I'm going to do quickly is get the rest of my flock and start sprinkling. Now I haven't got much left in here, but that's not a major problem, because all I can do is where it's spilt off the edge, yeah, I can lift this model off, put it to one side, collect it all back in my tub and carry on applying. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm going round, and I know I'm going to run out now. I can tell. Yeah, I'm not going to have enough to finish off covering this. So I'll make sure these areas round here are well covered with the last bits. And then what I'm going to do very quickly, a little bit of a shake. Okay, I'm going to put that over there just really quickly. Please don't fall. I'm going to take my tubs off. Okay, you notice a bit of static, a few drops on there. Yeah, so I'll just quickly wipe that so it doesn't fall into my tub. Then all I'm going to do is very quickly bend my cardboard, get my tub, and I'm sorry I'm doing this right now, but I need to finish the tutorial. I'm just going to drop that all back in, and that's a bit messy, to be perfectly honest. I could have done a better job than that, as you can see there. So I'll push that up, and I'll collect that in a little while. Yeah, like I say, I love getting messy with this stuff. So back to our tubs. So get a model, tubs down, crack on. Yeah, and it literally is a matter of just cracking on, sprinkling it around, getting it as best you can. Yeah, I can't actually see over the edge, so I'm hoping I'm getting everything I need to get. Yeah, and that's looking good. Okay, now with these bits that are coming over, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and throw them at the very edge. Now what you can do is you can obviously tilt your model. Okay, and then you can get them on that very edge. Okay, going round. Yeah, I definitely do need to get them on that edge because it's looking a bit shabby, to be perfectly honest. So guys, once again, what I'm going to do is I need a bit more flock because I've used all the flock I've got. Take these bases off. Shake off a bit of the excess that way. You'll notice as I do it, it's gone round, and then I'm just going to do that. Do you see what I'm doing there? All I'm doing is pressing into the actual flock on the base, and what that does is it just picks it up on the edge. Now it's a little bit scraggy, to be truthful. I should have covered those edges a little bit better, but I think they're going to be fine. Oh, a few around there, and it literally is as simple as that. Okay, and then the next thing I need to do is quickly. Whoa, look at me juggling. Yeah, put my bases down just quickly, and then I need to put that down and leave it to dry. So there you are. That's our original layer of flock, and as you can see, it's quite thick, but then again there's a lot on top. Now what I need to do is leave this to dry completely. So I'm going to leave it for about 5-10 minutes just to make sure most of it starts to get sticky. Then I'm going to empty off the excess, collect it all up and clean up my workspace, and then once it's completely dry, and it can take a while to dry, like I said, I've talked about accelerating it, but once it's completely dry, we'll come back and I'll show you how to seal it using watered down PVA. So I'll see you in a little while, guys. So now the piece is dried, you can actually see that the flock has given it a really good covering, but I should say that flock doesn't actually give 100% covering. There are patches, and you know, if I bring this up to the camera, I'm not sure if you can see, but a little bit of a hint of the base coat is coming through. Only in little patches, but it is coming through. And one of the things you should take away from this is obviously, you know, make sure you do actually base coat, you know, your miniatures that you're going to, the pieces that you're going to flock. Never flock white polystyrene. Yeah, it'll look horrendous. Now, what colour you flock it is down to you. I went for brown for this because it's very earthy, and if it shows through it looks quite natural. If you want a really green field, okay, and you know you don't want any signs of brown, just base coat it green at the end of the day, and then you'll just get little patches of natural green showing through. If you get big patches where it hasn't stuck, what you can do is give it a spray with this and just sprinkle on some more of this. It is very forgiving. You can build it up. The main thing is just don't mess with it while it's wet. So if it's still wet and it's patchy, let it completely dry before you put any more on, or it's going to go gloopy. Now the next stage I want to do with this is sealing it. Now some people will tell you that you don't need to seal it, and you know it's perfectly fine once it's glued. Yeah, personally I disagree with that. These things are designed to be handled. You know, we're going to be passing these, moving around the tables, putting models on them. You know, occasionally they get knocked, so I like to seal my terrain. So what I'm going to do is very quickly, I'm going to take this to the kitchen because I can't spray here because my computer's here, and you know, all sorts of things, you get the idea. I'm going to take this through to the kitchen. Yeah, I'll film it on my iPhone so you can see what I'm doing, and then we'll come back once it's sort of sprayed, etc. So see you in a moment, guys. Right guys, we're here in my kitchen and we're about to spray it, but before we do, while I've got the iPhone, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in close, and so you can see where the base colour has sort of come out. Do you see that, guys? Now to me that isn't a problem, and if it was I would have base coated it green, or you know, like I say, put some spray on, put some more flock down. It's not an issue, okay? Now you'll notice along here as well, what I've got is I've got little brown bits showing from the original paint where it hasn't flocked. That's not a problem. I'm going to show you how to cover that later on. So here's my spray bottle, and I'm sorry about doing it this way because, you know, I've got a camera in one hand and a spray bottle in the other, but all I'm going to do is very quickly give it a quick spray. Yeah, do you see that? Spin it round, do this side. Yeah, and I'm holding the spray quite well back. I mean, I'm over a foot away, and that's because I want it to diffuse. If I go too close, I'll risk actually blowing the, the flock away. So one more. Now you noticed it's got the building, okay? If I go in close now, you can see where it's all damp down here. And you can see on the building, yeah, where it's If you're overly concerned about that, what you can do is just get a small brush and just literally just run it over and it'll take that off. But when it's watered down this much, to be perfectly honest, I find that it dries matte anyway, so it's not a problem. Okay guys, right, I'm going to leave this to dry, and then what I'll do is I'll bring the finished bit back to you. Watch it in just, well, as soon as it's dry. So here's our finished piece, guys, and obviously the process we've gone through is we've put watered down PVA down, we've covered it with flock, we've then shaken off the excess once that's dried, and you know, we've sealed it with watered down PVA, and the result is really good. I mean, very little is coming off, and this isn't completely dry yet. Okay, this is going to take some hammer, and as you can see, it's quite a nice effect. You can see little hints of the base coat coming through. Yeah, that's why it's brown, and you know, it works well. If you want a green look to it, just base coat it in green. Don't do it over white polystyrene. Okay, and that's basic flocking, and obviously there's more stuff we can do to it, to be perfectly honest, and I'm going to cover that soon. Yeah, but right now, basic flocking. Hope you found it useful, guys. And now we'll move on to actually adding static grass, okay? So, let's move on and let's have a look at static grass. Now when it comes to static grass, we're all used to it and we've all seen it before. It comes in like hobby tubs and it's quite clumpy and sort of sticks to your fingers. And the main way of putting it on our Wargames models bases, you know, our model bases, is just to put a little bit of PVA down and then just get a clump and literally just drop it on to make clump effects. And that's fine, yeah, for our Wargames because they're little clumps. But you need to do it slightly different when it comes to terrain because that technique will not work. Now there's a bit of a myth in the Wargames community about static grass, and that's that it's statically charged and will therefore automatically stand up when you put it down. That's a load of rollicks, okay? Complete load of rollicks. Anyone who tells you that, yeah, just, you know, just ignore them. It's designed to be used with something like this, which is a static grass applicator, and puts an electric charge through it to make it stand up. And this is the only, using static electricity is the only real way to actually get it to stand up. Now, there's a few other techniques which are more basic that you can get some good results with, and I'm going to show you those now before I show you what this can do, because obviously if you're only doing a few pieces, you don't need a bit of equipment like this. I mean, if this costs about £13, I think. Now before we go into that, the normal caveats with static grass apply. If you're doing a small little job, hobby supplies are fine, but if you want to do something special or larger, you need to start looking at the railway people for different grades, for different colours, for different lengths, to buy in bulk and make savings. You know, this was like £3.50, £4, this was £8, you know, you can see the difference. So anyway, on to the techniques of actually applying this. Now, there's two main ways that you can apply it without a static grass applicator. There's the clump technique, which we use in Wargames anyway, which is literally grabbing clumps and just sticking it on. Okay, and it produces a clumpy effect. And I'm going to use that around the edges. Okay, because that will blend in really well with the tables. Now the other way is to come up with something like this. And all this is, it's a little tester pot of my paints. Yeah, and I've just put some holes in the top. And that way what you can do is you can literally shake it down. Yeah, and put it on far more fine. And I don't know if you can see that coming out because it is actually quite fine. Yeah, but it is coming out quite thickly. Okay, now you've still got the static problem. Okay, and there's a way of dealing with this, and I'll show you that in just a second. Yeah, when we actually get to it, I think you'll quite like it. So when it comes to putting the glue on, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate here, to be truthful. Okay, I don't think I'm going to do all of it because I'll probably do more of it with this because it's quicker and the results are far better. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put PVA down. Now with a lot of these, with a lot of sealing and putting stuff down, I use a 50-50 mix. With static grass, that doesn't work that well, because what happens is, especially if it's got flow aid in, is it sucks all the grass and it makes like a matte effect, and it's all trodden down. It just doesn't look good at all. Okay, so when it comes to working with PVA, what you really need to do, working with static grass, you really need to use a thicker PVA. And the reason for this is so as it drops, it can stick in a thick PVA and actually stand up in the glue. Okay, so all I'm going to do quickly to show you the clumping technique. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll do it from this here round to just about there, just so you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll work round in my own time. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to run neat PVA. Sorry about that, guys, bear with me one moment. Sorry about that, guys, bit of a madhouse here today. So as you can see, what I'm basically doing is I'm just adding this PVA, watered down PVA. Yeah, and as you can see, because it's wet, it is lifting the flock up. Yeah, you can see it coming off on my brush there. Okay, now don't be concerned about this. Obviously the water's got onto the original glue, and you know, it's just quite simply just lifting it up and off. Okay, because obviously, like I said before, PVA is not a sealant, and it's not easy doing this back to front, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, you're better off going with dabs with this than actual wipes, because the wipes will wash it off. So going on to the clump technique. Okay, and this is the clump technique, and all you basically do is, this is Gale Force 9s, static grass, it's exactly the same stuff as GWs. Okay, is I grab a clump and I'll literally just push it on. Yeah, and by dabbing it, I'm sort of mimicking that sort of stand up effect, and I don't want to push down too hard on this. Yeah, but as you can see, I'm going to grab a bit more and go around here. Yeah, and it's covering it up really nicely, and I'm trying to use this to see where the edges are, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is quickly just shake off the excess a bit. Yeah, and as you can see, it's quite clumpy and thick. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, to get more of it standing up, I'm going to get a fleece and a balloon. I'm going to use the static on the balloon to pick it up, and I don't know if you can see it, but it is actually picking it up. That's it. Now I'm using the static to get this to pick up. So that's the clumping. Now if you excuse me, what I'm going to do is quickly, I'm just going to go round the edges and quickly clump all the edges up. Okay, so it's all tied in. So here we have it, guys. I've basically gone round with neat PVA and just a little water, gone round the edge, and I have disturbed quite a lot of I've unsealed quite a lot of the, flock as I've done it. But it's okay, because it's got a covering of static grass now, so it's not a problem. Like I say, PVA isn't waterproof, so you know, if you're going putting water or PVA back on an area that's been PVA'd, expect it to come loose. And obviously all I'm going to do now is just quickly shake off the excess. I'm going to tap that. Sorry that you're sort of seeing it like this, guys, but the only way I can do it. And that's the clump method. Okay. Now obviously you can see quite clearly it's got quite a defined clumpy static grass area. Okay, and what I'd like to show you now is just quickly, yeah, oh, I haven't done the balloon. So just give me 1 second. Yeah, and it's not a brilliant way of doing it, but if you've got no other way of generating a static charge, it's the best you've got. Like I say, it will make them stand up just a tap it slightly. So there we are, and as you can see, you can't see where the flock's disappeared from. I mean, it is a complete covering. It's a little bright at the minute, but that's the white PVA underneath the flock, and as that dries, that'll settle down. Now the other thing I wanted to show you quickly is, obviously I've got all this lovely flock on my base, and I'll have to clean that up in a minute, but this stuff, my shaker. And so what I'm going to do is, moving on to the shaker, yeah, I'm going to get some PVA here, yeah, a little bit of water on my brush. I'm just going to spread it around and blend it in with that PVA there, okay, and you can see what I'm doing there, quite nice and clear, okay. Then all I'm going to do with my shaker, so it should just come above it, and shake it, and this gives you a lot more control over how much is going down. Yeah, and you'll notice that sort of blended in. The problem with this is that sort of flat grass, because it's got no static charge. I mean, the clumping does give you sort of a rough sticky up effect, but that's just laying flat. So what I need is my balloon. Yeah, I just need to go over it, and you'll see that that automatically just picks all that up. Okay, now that's how you use the balloon, and that's how you use the shaker. Okay, and it's not as good as the clumping method, but there is more control over it. This is quite thick. What I do want to show you finally is this. Okay, now this is a static grass applicator, and the way static grass is supposed to work is dead simple. You're supposed to pass a current between the glue and the applicator, and what that will do is make it stand up. Okay, so this is, let me show you quickly. If I push that into the glue, okay, that pin, I press my button, whee, and I tap it, all of a sudden that all stands up. Okay, and what that little charge was then, that, okay, obviously it's where the currents meet and the static charges. Whenever you use one of these, it builds up quite a charge in the dish, so afterwards it's really important that, you know, once your finger's off the button and you stop using it, you just touch them. So I'll use it quickly, I'll switch it off and then discharge. Okay, the static shock is supposed to be a bit like you get off a car when you're getting out of it, but to be perfectly honest, I don't want to find out. I'll keep it away. So all I'm going to do dead quickly is to show you how this goes on. Okay, so I'll put a good amount of glue there. Okay, bit there. And using a slightly watered down brush. And a slightly watered down brush is best because the water will help conduct the current, yeah, through the static grass. And don't worry if you get on a bit of static grass that's already been there. It's not a problem. Not a problem whatsoever. And this technique is very much like when we learnt to put the grit on large pieces, i.e. you leave a bit blank of the glue and you sort of scatter in one area and then move on. Now obviously this is picking up a lot of gunk from the static grass because that hasn't dried yet. But if I get my static grass applicator and I load it up with static grass, yeah, and not a massive amount, okay, I get my pin, I put my pin in my glue, yeah, and first thing I'm going to do is sort of shake it. And to be truthful, I'm left-handed, guys, so just let me swap this over. So first shake it down and get a decent covering. Yeah, and it looks relatively flat, doesn't it? Yes, the wires are fiddly. Yeah, and then just tap it. And as you tap it, what will happen is it will start to stand up. So I'll put a bit more down. It's really hard working back to front on this. And just tap it. And do you see that? Do you see how it's standing up really nice there? Okay, let me bring that, oh, just discharge. And bring that up to the camera. Do you see that now? And that's going to dry nice and standing up. So what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to work round the rest of this, okay, and just add those patches in and blend it in a bit better. And there you have it, guys. Basically all I've done is I've used my static grass applicator to sort of build it up. Now it is very clumpy at the minute, and that's because I'm waiting for it to dry. So I'll just lift it up so you can see. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll wait for it to dry and we'll come back and you can give me your opinion on it then. Okay, like I say, you can use the clump method, that works quite well. You know, you can use this method and the balloon, that works quite well. But if you're serious about doing terrain and you're going to be doing a lot of it, yeah, then pick yourself up one of these, because they're a hell of a lot easier and they're actually great fun. Yeah, I have discovered what the shock feels like, and it's not nice, to be perfectly honest. So make sure you discharge it. Okay, otherwise you're going to have problems. Now, just so you can remember what discharge looks like. Okay, ready? There you go. Do you see that? Let's put it right in front. Okay, ready for the spark? Now I switched it off, I've just got to discharge it. Yeah. But anyway, that's the static grass applicator, and it is simple as that. Obviously static grass gets everywhere, yeah, so I'm going to clean this up and let this dry. I'll see you in a minute, guys. So here we have the final piece, guys, and it's all dried and blown off now. Now you may notice it's got a few extra bits. What happened was, as I was taking it through the kitchen to to blow it in outside and get rid of the excess, I slipped on a mopped floor and I went flying, and this banged into my cheek and I pressed a few areas down, so I had to touch them up. And I don't think you can actually tell, but there was a large flat thumbprint in there, and over this side this got flattened against my face. And what happens is, when you've got wet PVA and static grass, any direct pressure down will just flatten it out and it will go hard, and it's not shiny, but let's say plasticky. Okay, so be aware of that. But if it does happen, all you've got to do is literally just put a little bit of PVA in, okay, and just once it's all dried, put a little bit of PVA in where it's flattened down and just add some more static grass, and it works really well. So let's have a look at our finished piece. Obviously I've added these little bits to sort of gradiate it in a bit rather than it being one line all the way round. Okay, because that looks better. And you can feather them and you can thin down how much you're putting on for the effect. But with the layers we actually did, straight off we had the clump, and that's gone down like real wild grass. And anyone who's served will know what I mean by that. Okay, it's not sort of normal outside grass that we have in Civvy Street. It's sort of the wilderness grass, because it's clumped, it's all over the place. Okay, after that we did a little bit of with the shaker. Okay, and that's come out a lot thinner, but like I say, you have more control. And obviously if you want to put more down, then all you've got to do is just put more down when you're shaking it. Then finally we've got the pieces that we've done with the static grass applicator, and they've gone down slightly thinner than the actual clump, because obviously we're not pressing loads in, but it has gone down far more natural and it does look more like grass. Now you may notice the odd little clump here and there, and that's where, when I was mixing the two PVAs, they've got together and they've formed in a clump. I mean, what you can do is, when it's drying, you can tap it down a little bit and that will flatten them out. Alternatively, you can wait till they're dry and you can just get a little bit of scissors and you can actually trim this stuff. Okay, but overall that's the effect you're getting. Ooh, that's the effect you're getting, and it's really good. So guys, 3 basic ways of applying static grass. You've got the clump method, which is quick, cheerful, you know, it gets the job done. You get a little bit more precise with the shaker, or if you want to get serious about it, get one of these on eBay. Now remember, they may be about £13 on eBay, but if you're doing a set of terrain, you could do all the terrain, and then if you want, you could sell it for a couple of quid less. Okay, these really are good. I can't recommend them enough, to be perfectly honest. So that's static grass, guys, and that's that bit. Any questions or comments on static grass, you know, just like everything, just throw them in the comments. Any additions, anything you think that you can add to it, throw it in the comments. But that's overall. I really hope this bit helps you guys. So give it a go. And what you call it, once you've done the static grass, the next thing is the clump material, and that's what we're going to work on next. So what we'll do is we'll move over to clump material, and we'll get this sort of moving. Now guys, this is clump foliage, and this is a tub from Gale Force 9 that's ram-packed full. Okay, and basically all it is it's dyed sponge. Okay, and it's dyed in various colours, and much like everything else when I talk about supplies for making terrain, you've got your basic hobby supplies which are fine for small jobs and little bits, yeah. But after that you need to start looking at the bigger manufacturers, the railway people. Yeah, and for example, £3.50, £8. Okay, and this is clump material as well, it's exactly the same foam. So let me put that down there. Yeah, and it literally, you can rip it apart and it is just dyed foam. Yeah, and by foam I mean sponge. You know, the stuff you get in the, what you call it, in what you wash yourself with, loofahs, that sort of stuff. It comes in a variety of different shades and textures. So you can get various from all the different manufacturers, different shades of the stuff. Okay, and on top of that you can actually get sort of thinner, and this is exactly the same stuff, but it's been ground down to the sort of just above flock. Okay, so that's sort of a middle ground between flock and clump. And when I talk about clump foliage, this is clump foliage, this sponge stuff. But for the purpose of making terrain, I tend to group in lichen with it, lichen, whatever you call it. And this is a plant. Okay, this is literally a plant that's grown and it's harvested, and you can tell that because there's little bits of twigs and seeds in there. And once again, this stuff, it's dyed in various different colours, etc. Okay, and on top of that, you got this hair stuff. Yeah, the modelling grass. Okay, now this isn't clump material, but I refer to it as clump material because basically you clump it down on the base. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to show you how to apply the various bits. And what we'll do is we'll do it on one corner, and then I'll go off and do my own little thing and get the rest of it finished, and you can have a look at it then. Okay guys, so let's start with clump material. Now when you're working with clump material, start largest to smallest. Now I know I'm going backwards on this, yeah. And it is really easy to apply. It takes a little bit of forethought, and sometimes you have to rip the bits to get the right sort of piece, but I see a gap there. So what I'm going to do, see, if this had been on my glue stand, it'd come out automatically. Who says you don't need a glue stand? So I'm going to put neat PVA down there. I'm not even moving it around with a brush. Yeah, I'm going to get that, and literally all I'm going to do, shove it in. Yeah, don't worry if the PVA sticks out a bit, it is not a problem. Okay, and we'll have a little bit more here. And clump material is really good for disguising. Oh, this is ridiculous. Right, remember my PVA stand? It's staying on this from now on, because this will speed this process up a lot. So I'll leave that on the PVA stand. Yeah, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this bit. Okay, I'm going to put that there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack open the Gale Force 9 tub, because it's just a bit easier at the minute. And I'm going to get some lighter stuff. So that's probably the same. Let's go for a different shade of green and push that in. And clump material literally is just that. It simply is just putting little spots down and gluing it on. And of course, you know, you can put spots down here. And glue a bit on there. Yeah, and what we'll be doing at the end of this is we'll actually be spraying it with watered down PVA sealant, and that'll help all this stick down with no problems whatsoever. And that's basically how you do clump material, the foam stuff. So I'll bring that up to the camera so you can take a good look. And it really is easy, you know, and when it dries it's very effective. Okay, and what I'll do in the future videos, I'll show you some ways of jazzing this stuff up, but for now, that's basic clump material. So move it around there and you can see those bits there. Okay, so next one, because that really is all there is to putting on clump material, guys. In fact, what I'll do is just a little bit more, and I'll clump that up there, because I'm at it now. And like I said, after this, once I've shown you this, what I'll do is in my own time, I'll do the rest, so you're not sitting there just watching me glue bits of foam onto it. Yeah, let's pick a nice little bit. And this is why I like these tubs, actually. I know I go on about getting stuff from the train people and, you know, the railway guys. But these little tubs are making it really easy just to get a selection of different stuff. And that includes all their other different... I mean, there's lots of different basing kits and desert basing kits and all this sort of stuff. And because of, you know, you get a nice little mix of various things. They're great little additions. Yeah, they just help you mix things up a bit. Now, the next one is this stuff. And this stuff is Lichen. Or Lichen, depending on how you say it. Okay, and like I say, it is a plant. Yeah, and as you see, it comes out literally like that. And it comes in various different shades. You can get various different colours. And this bit's got twigs in it and all sorts. So I'm going to use some of these. Okay. Now this stuff, because it's clump material, glues down really well. Because it's sort of solid, if you know what I mean. Whereas this is quite airy-fairy. And by that I mean it's quite light. It's very little stuff to actually contact. So it takes a little bit more work to work with. Yeah, and to get it looking right, yeah, what you've got to do is pick a spot. See, this is what happens when I don't leave it on the glue stand. Right, so I'm going to put a nice amount of what you call it. I'm going to just put some on the walls as well there. Yeah. Put it in the glue stand so it's better. And then all I'm literally going to do is grab this and I'm just going to sort of squidge it and push it in with my fingers. Because it will spring up naturally. But what I want it to do is just take the PVA. Okay. And what I'm going to do very quickly, and you'll understand why in a little while, is I'm going to put a little bit of PVA on there and spread it out a bit. Just ignore that for the time being. I'll come to that in a little while. Okay. And I'm just going to push it there. And then once that's there, I can sort of look at it and I can go back and I can say, right, well actually I'm going to put a bit more PVA there. I'm going to get a little bit more of my clump. And this is arts and crafts. It's very much how you want it. Okay, guys, and I'm going to shove that under so you haven't got the underhang. And you can see it's starting to form up and actually start to take shape. I can imagine there's a little bit there just to cover the base of this bush. And if you think in nature, this is generally what happens. You get a bush, you know, it will grow up, you know, underneath where there's space, you'll start to get shrubs, etc. growing. You know, it's very rare you just get a bush in nature which just stands up with nothing underneath it. Okay, and it literally is a matter of just pushing that in. Don't worry about if you can still see PVA. It's not a problem. Yeah, because it will dry. And there you have it, guys. That's just very quickly how to apply a bush. Okay, and what I'm going to do in a little while is I'm going to go round and like I said, I'm going to decorate this up. Okay, so let's just put a couple, show you a different bush. And I'm going to use quite a tiny one there, and as you see, it's breaking off, and it literally does have stalks on it. Okay, so PVA. We'll put this one. We'll put this one here. A bit smaller. Yeah. I'm going to try and put it in just like that. So I'm going to push it down. Make sure the bottom gets a good amount. And there you are. Simple as that. Okay, and you work this round and it becomes really realistic. Now, when we're making Wargames terrain, yeah, it's not just how pretty it is. It's how functional that terrain is. Okay, and what I mean by that is you can put these big bushes all around the edges, you know, right out here. But the fact of the matter is we know we're going to be moving miniatures over them. We know that they're going to be passed around and moved around the table and stacked up. And what I've always found is, you know, once you sort of go away from walls and that sort of thing, or trees or anything which gives it a bit of protection, they tend to get knocked off. So my best suggestion is, as you go down away from your sort of protection, use smaller bits. So I've got a bit here, yeah, where it's a little bit thin on the what you call it. So I'll hold that up now, just so you can see. And if you look just carefully there, yeah, it's a little bit thin on the flock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some of this. See, this is what happens when you don't put it on the glue stand. See, I'm selling this glue stand. I'm going to put a bit there, bit there, bit there, bit there. Okay? And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this What I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into tiny little bits. Literally, and I'm just going to mix it up. All different colours. And I'm literally just breaking it up into tiny little bits. Tiny, tiny little bits. And pushing them on. And what this does, it just disguises any bare patches. Yeah, and it helps the whole thing blend in together. So a bit of that one. And literally all I'm doing is tiny, tiny little bits. Yeah, and you can see I'm just pushing them on. Yeah. Now remember, yeah, I do plan on sealing this again, a bit like I did with the flock. Okay, and what that will do is it'll just, when I seal it, it'll soak through all of this and it will just fix it firmly. Okay, but I can't do that until I'm ready for it. So guys, that's basically applying lichen and clump material, yeah, and the effects are really nice. You know, I'm going to try and bring this up and so you can get a nice good shot. What I might do is just take a photo of it and throw it in just so you guys can see it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll finish this off and then I'll do a photo so you can see it, then I'll crack on. Okay, and you can see the little bits there and it works really well. Yeah, so we've covered putting lichen on, or lichen, however you say it, however you prefer to say it. We've covered the various clump materials and there's plenty out there. The final one is this stuff. Okay, now I should say there's lots of other hobby materials out there, but with putting caveats on it, this is the sort of stuff that you're going to be mainly using. Okay, and all the other stuff I'll look at in the future. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some hair out. Okay, and that's a bit too much to be truthful, so I'm going to split it up. Okay, I can always put it back afterwards, it's not a problem. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit like that. That's a bit too straggly. Yeah, I'm going to twist it round a bit. Okay, and then while I'm holding it there, I'm going to get a pair of scissors. I'm going to just do this here so I can pick these up nice and cleanly afterwards. I'm going to take the bottom. Okay, and all I need to do is trim that a little neater. Yeah, a neat bottom on this is very important, guys. Always go for a neat bottom. Yeah, as I'm going to dip it in that PVA that I put on that lid earlier, and that's because the PVA is already starting to get tacky. And what you want in this stuff is tacky. Don't put the glue on the base and then stick it in. Put the glue on the bottom of the grass. So what I'll do is I'll put some there. Yeah, and as you can see, yeah, it's stood up. Can you see that, guys? Oh, it's fallen to one side actually. So I can stand it up like that. And then what I can do is get my glue. That's in my glue holder so it'll come straight out. Oh, careful, don't touch your static grass. Don't touch your fake grass, you'll knock it everywhere. So just pick that up. It's a lot easier when you can actually see what you're doing. But once you've got this grass up, yeah, I'm just going to get a bit of this foam, sort of put it at the bottom, and just hide the bottom. And it literally is as easy as that. Tiny little bits. And then you've got tall grass standing up. And you can do that so they're isolated. So let's get another bit. Let's move that down to there. Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll trim it. Yeah, give it a neat bottom. Because I do like neat bottoms. The neater the better. Yeah, I'm going to pull a few of these hairs out because they're going a bit far. Okay, and so I've ended up with a little clump. Yeah. Dip it in my PVA. Yeah, so a little PVA on the bottom. And then I'll put this one, say here. Oh, I've got to make sure I get this right. So that's the problem if you start messing. Go from one to the other and just go for it. Okay, put it in, stand it up. And then what I'll do on this particular case is I'll get some clump material, and rather than putting the glue on the base, what you call it, where I can possibly knock the grass as it's standing, I'll dip my clump material in some PVA. Yeah, and then I'll literally just apply it. There you go. And let me just pull that together. and that's giving you tall grass. Yeah, and you can put it literally all the way down, and I'm going to bring it up so you can get a nice good view. So what you got there is you've got some right, let's have a look. Sorry guys, I'm struggling to see. Right, over here we've got some tall grass. Yeah, we've got some tall grass there. We've got our sponge flock there, our foam flocks, and then we've got a lichen. Little patch down there, and I'm going to spread this all the way around. So guys, that's basically clump material, and there is not much more to it than just sticking it down and gluing it. There are some advanced things you can do with it, and I'll show you that in a future video, because this is about the basic techniques to getting this stuff on your terrain. Okay, so in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack on and finish decorating this off, and then I'll show you the finished video. See you in a moment, guys. So here we've got the piece all clumped up, okay, and as you can see I've added it all round the actual piece, and it's really quite nice, to be perfectly honest. Now this isn't a masterclass, this is just showing you what you can do with the basic materials out there. I'll do fancy stuff in the future, yeah, but right now it's back to basics, and it's getting you to learn how to use this simple stuff. Yeah. As you can see, the glue is tacky dry, and it's going to take about 24 hours to dry completely. Once it has dried completely, okay, what I intend to do is give it a quick blast with watered down PVA with a 50-50 mix with Foliage in. And what that will do is it'll just soak through everything and just fix it all down. Now if you've only got 1 or 2 bushes and you don't want to spray your entire piece to seal it, what you can do is get 50-50 mix of watered down PVA with Foliage in it. Okay, and there's a video on that if you don't know how to do it. Okay, just check the simple tips. And all you're going to do is dead simply find a bush, stick your nozzle in, and just empty a bit in. Okay, and tuck it behind the brush. And what that'll do is, because of the Foliage, it will flow all through the brush. Okay, and it'll dry matte and it'll dry hard. So what that means is you'll end up with a more secure bush that won't rip off and leave like tattered bits stuck to the glue, because that can happen with wargaming at times. So as I said, guys, that's clump foliage, and that means the sponge foam bushes, that means the standing grass, that means the lichen. You know, and it does look really good. I mean, how much of this stuff you put on is completely down to you and aesthetics. Yeah, I go for sort of a mix between playability, and obviously I can easily get models around here storming this church, you know, and, you know, aesthetics, it looks good. Okay, so I'm just going to lift that up for you. Okay, so if you've got anything to sort of add to it, and anything else that you want to sort of, any questions, any tips or anything like that, throw them in the comments. Dead easy peasy. So that's clump foliage, guys. I hope you find it useful. Now let me go cameras up. That's better. Hi guys, as you can see, I'm sporting a nice, red mark there from where that smacked me in the face. Sorry, look at the camera, not looking at you guys. So guys, back to basics. That is it. That's the fundamentals of getting foliage, yeah, onto your terrain, and it's not hard. Okay, the materials are out there, the techniques are simple, and like anything, with anything like this, don't be afraid, just give it a go. So I know it's a long video, and I know there's a lot of information in it, and I know I'm going to break down various little bits of it and put it on the simple tips as well. So if you want to find something specific, there'll be a little video in there. Okay, I really do hope you've liked this video, and if you found it useful, click the like. If you find what I do useful, click the subscribe. You know, if you want to talk to me, throw me a comment on a message, throw me a personal message, or find me on Facebook. It's The Terrain Tutor. I've got a website, theterraintutor.co.uk, and I'm on Twitter, The Terrain Tutor. But I need to catch up on Twitter and the website, to be truthful. In the meantime, if you really want an answer, throw it on YouTube or grab me on Facebook, guys. Yeah? Until, you know, the next video, have fun making terrain, guys. Yeah? I'll see you soon. Ta-ra.